day before, we were shooting this. My wife burned her arm getting something out of the oven. Now, for those of you who are married, probably the riskiest thing you could do is to start trying to do accident incident investigations on your spouse. So my 9-year-old son Taylor just turned 9, and I got Taylor to do the investigation on Donna because I figured there'd be far fewer repercussions.
Mom, how did you get hurt?
That's a burn, and I got it from the oven. The oven thermometer had fallen into the bottom of the oven, and I was trying to get it out, so I put oven mitts on, removed the bottom rack, and I reached in to grab the oven thermometer, and my arm that was above the top of the oven mitt touched the hot rack that was just above it, and it burnt my arm. That's how it happened.
And I know a way it won't happen again if you get new oven mitts that go up to here on you.
Yes, that would work.
No. There's a traditional industrial safety approach Taylor's coming up with right there. Increase the personal protective equipment. Not a bad idea. I've never seen oven mitts that come up to your shoulder, so acquiring a pair of these things might take a bit of effort. But it's easier to get Taylor maybe to ask her what happened, and for me to come out and do it.
What were the errors? Eyes not on task, mind not on task, line of fire, or balance, traction, grip?
Well, mine not on task, because I wasn't thinking about that upper rack, and eyes not on task to the point that I wasn't looking at the top of the oven mitts to see how much of my arm was covered. Because I reached down, I had the oven mitts on, thinking I was safe, but looking at the oven thermometer itself, not the rack.
What about line of fire?
Oh yes, line of fire. Yeah, because I moved my arm into the hot oven rack.
Okay, so if I was doing this investigation and I said, well, what about line of fire? It'd be a good idea to ask that question out of arm's reach, per se. So I would be out of the line of fire.
What were the states? Rushing, frustration, fatigue, or complacency?
Well, it would have to be, in this case, it would be complacency. Just working around the oven a lot. You just kind of get used to the hot things because I wasn't thinking about it. I had my oven mitts on thinking I was safe, that I wasn't going to get burned, and I wasn't thinking about how high up on my arm they went. And it wasn't fatigue because I wasn't tired, and it wasn't frustration or rushing. I wasn't rushing.
Donna not being tired, what with 4 little kids and me being on the road 150 some odd days a year, that was a bit of a surprise to me because she's almost chronically fatigued. She wasn't in a rush, which is also surprising because quite often the getting this stuff together in the kitchen for whatever it is, she's in a rush to do that. But that complacency thing, I thought I was safe. I had the oven mitts on, wasn't really paying attention to the rack, only the thermometer. So you don't necessarily need to have all 4 states. One state leading to one error can still be enough if there's some hazardous energy around.
With CERT techniques, could you use self-trigger, analyze close calls, look at others, work on habits?
Well, I can certainly analyze my close call, just going over what had happened and how I could prevent that in the future, and also work on my habits.
Okay, I know a way it won't work besides buying a pair of oven mitts that are humongous. You can just take all the tracks out and do it.
That would have worked. Eliminate the hazard altogether.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea because if you were even mentally thinking about eliminating the hazard altogether, even if you couldn't, you'd be much more attentive, much more cognizant of that hazard. But personal protective equipment and trying to procedurize everything you do so that the hazards in this world and the potentially hazardous energy in this world can't get you hurt isn't going to happen. Okay? It's just not reality. So, it's a good idea, Taylor, and yeah, probably at the workplace, the improved personal protective equipment and a procedure for dealing with this kind of a hazard or this kind of a situation, all good ideas. But you start thinking about being a busy mom, working around the kitchen, the oven, the stove, the sharp knives, everything like that. Do you really think you're going to go home ever to anybody's home and see procedures, written procedures for all these things? No. I mean, part of what we also have to do, besides the personal protective equipment and besides the procedures, is we also have to teach the people what they can do for themselves. I think it's interesting that she thinks that a burn that is almost 1.5 inches long and 3/8 of an inch wide is just a close call. I tend to think of close calls as, like that would have been a close call for a burn for me. Something that long that hurt for probably half a day, I would have actually gone all out and called that a real injury. And if nothing happened, if there was no interaction between Taylor and Donna or me and Donna, Mackenzie and Donna, if nobody actually did this with her, I don't think we'd get anywhere close to the same volume of thought in terms of, what were the states, what were the errors, what were the 4 critical error reduction techniques that would have prevented this in the future. I mean, my guess is, once you got the, the ointment on it, maybe a Band-Aid, and back to basically the hustle and bustle life of, being a mom with 4 little kids. And not necessarily a whole lot of thought about what do I need to do to prevent the next one. Once it stopped hurting, she would probably be just thinking about, what do I need to do next? Pick up Mackenzie at gymnastics, take Mitchell to swimming. I'm sure most of you know the drill. So at least being able to stop, think, ask some questions is going to give us a lot more in the future in terms of preventing something like this from happening again.